When we started, it was 5 of us, Phil, in a room that was smaller than this stage, quite honestly. We had no corporate partners, we had no funders, we had no students, but we knew we had a vision. And it's important for you to understand the history and understand how we came to be. And Phil, I'll always be grateful for you throwing your hat in the ring in those first days. Thanks, Phil. So a number of you, when you were coming in, you were talking about being nervous. I suspect that you're not nervous anymore. Now you've been across the stage, you have that diploma in your hand. And you know, if you spent any time with me, one of the things I'll tell you is if you're not nervous, you don't care. Right? Things that matter to you, you're nervous about. And I will tell you, and Lori knows this, that one of the things that makes me most nervous is giving a graduation speech. Because I care so much about each and every one of you. You know, if we have a presentation to make to one of our corporate partners, no offense to Maura, to Paul, that's easy. That's the easy thing to go and sell what it is that you bring to the table. If I'm talking to a funder about millions of dollars, that's easy. What's difficult is to live up to the standards that you deserve. That you deserve the best, and I want to make sure that you always have the best. I can't help but think about, Paul, your speech and the importance of love, and Elijah talking about your grandmother. And I'm going to share a little story that, to be honest, I've only shared with one small group at Year Up, but I think it's important as it relates to this, is that I, too, grew up with my grandmother. She lived in Boston, and I went to college in California and then started my career in California. She became very ill, and we knew that she was going to pass away at some point. And I asked my mom, who was taking care of her, I just said, when Graham is getting ready to go, please just give me a call. I just want to be able to say goodbye. And so one morning, that call came, and my grandmother was unable to speak, so there was nothing on the other side. But I just told her what she meant to me, and I asked her to wait for me. And I got a plane ticket, flew to Boston, somehow got a cab. We got caught in traffic. It took me about 12, 13 hours to get there. And I got to her bedside, held her hand, said 2 sentences to her, and she died. And I think about the power that love has in our life and how important it is for each of us to feel that. So Elijah, there is no question in my mind how proud your grandmother is of you. You know, look, I am not the only one who feels that way about all of you. I like to think of the Year Up Bay Area staff as 60-some-odd tulips that look like this. So I want to ask all of them to stand and remain standing, but I want to ask all of our staff who give so much of their heart and soul to you to please stand and please recognize them. So one of the best parts of my job, and there are a lot of good parts of my job, is the caliber of the people with whom I get to work. You heard and saw some of those people earlier today, and you heard from Paul as well. I also want to thank our sponsors for graduation. We have Robert Half Technologies, Pyramid Consulting, and Marketo. So thank you very much. You know, Paul, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember the first time that we met, Scott Gullick and I came over. Again, I was not nervous because I wasn't speaking at graduation. And I remember, you know, when you meet someone and you know this is someone you need to work with, that was the feeling I had. I knew within 10 minutes that this was going to be a great relationship between Gap Inc. and Year Up, and I've been proven to be correct. So thank you very much. So to the graduates, we want nothing but the best for all of you, because the truth of the matter is that you've demonstrated more courage than I ever will in my life. You know, and sadly, I think that you're going to need it for the rest of your life. I've tried hard to make sense of the events that are going on in the world, thinking about Ferguson and Staten Island and Cleveland. Had a lot of long conversations with our kids trying to make sense of this in the world. And I don't know the answer. I can't tell you how to respond to these kinds of events because, quite frankly, it's not my place to do so. What I want you to know, though, whether you meant to or not, is that you have already done something about it. You are already doing something about it. I want you to think back to orientation. A long time ago, one of the interactives we do is turn your back. It's always one of those most powerful days and times that we have as a staff. And what you did that day is you turned your back on perceptions. And you have done that every single day since. Whether you realize it or not, you have challenged people to change their minds. And that is the most powerful and long-lasting change there is. You can change laws, you can regulate behavior, but it is quite another matter altogether to change someone's heart and mind. I saw Selma recently, and probably not surprisingly, Dr. King has been on my mind quite a bit. I think he understood the time it takes to change hearts and minds when he said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." We are incredibly proud of you for the courage of believing in yourself, the courage to invest in yourself, the courage, like Elijah talked about, of dropping that salmon maybe when you need to do that. Because what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to remain on that arc with me and with us. Because Dr. King also said that all life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. So today is a very important step, not the first step, in what you ought to be. And what I'm going to ask you to do is think about people in your communities, people who you know are looking for an opportunity like the one you just had. I ask you all the support networks, thinking about people that you know are talented, motivated, have that passion, that energy, that love to be successful. We want to hear about it because companies like Paul's are having a hard time finding enough. So let's do that together. Let's make sure that arc bends under our watch. And I can't wait to watch what will happen, the success that you have, and I can't wait to celebrate with all of you for years to come. So congratulations, Class 12.